Today on the channel, we're talking fire management. We're talking 10 mistakes that I've made that you should avoid if you're new to offset cooking. What's up, barbecue fans? Welcome back to Patio. My name's Jake. You're watching Offset Rookie. Today on the channel, we're talking fire management, but not really fire management, more the 10 mistakes I've made when learning fire management. Now, early on in the channel, first couple of videos, I said, after 10 cooks, I'm gonna do a fire management video. I'm gonna show you how it's done. Let me tell you, there's a lot more to it than I expected. I've made a lot of mistakes, so I thought it'd be more beneficial to share with you the 10 mistakes that I've made so far. Now, before we get started, a couple things. I know I could use lump and it would make my life easier. Lots of people are doing it. I'm not knocking it. It's just not something I want to do. If I wanted to play with lump, I got this guy right here, Komodo Kamado. I play with lump and pieces of wood all day long, and I like it, but I didn't buy an offset. I especially didn't buy a 3/8 inch thick offset with a big firebox so that I could use lump. I really wanted to learn the art of live fire cooking with wood. I'm stubborn, just ask my wife. The other thing is, I know that I could cut my splits down, get a saw, cut them down, and make it easier. I cooked with 8-inch splits once, and it was great. I could manage the fire very, very easily. Problem was, I was adding wood every 15 minutes. It was a pain in the butt. Now, what I will do is next time I order some wood, I'll have it cut to 12 inches. I won't be dealing with my 14 and 16-inch pieces that have given me a little bit of a hassle. However, I'm working with what I got. I don't want to be, outside of splitting it down to smaller pieces diameter-wise, I don't want to be having to cut all my wood every time. I just don't want to do it. It's got a big firebox. I can learn how to do it. I'm being stubborn. I'm going to figure it out. Either way, let's get into the 10 mistakes that I've made when it comes to fire management. Mistake number one, you guys saw it in my very first video. I built a good old Boy Scouts fire, little pieces of wood, got that fire going gigantic, and I was like, bigger fire, that's better. Not necessarily the case. Learned through watching other videos and just playing that you need to make a fire completely differently. Ideally, what you want to do is you want to start with some smaller pieces down lower, then some heavier pieces, then maybe some smaller pieces on top, and that'll just help get those big logs burning quicker, because ideally what we want to do is we want to build ourselves a nice big coal bed. So we want to get some larger chunks of wood burning so they start to break down. So let me show you how we're building a fire now. So here's what we got. We've got two smaller pieces of wood, and what I've done is I've collected all the scraps from cutting up the wood. Just got a broom, swept it up, threw it in the bottom. We threw in some fire starters, and now we're going to build our fire. So we've got, a couple inch pieces here. They're not super small. And then I've got a couple bigger pieces. Got 3 fire starters in there. We'll light them up. Now, I'm not going to say that's the only way to build a fire. There's lots of ways to build a fire. But the mistake I was making is I was using small pieces of kindling trying to get a big fire, but when they broke down into small, useless ash, so I couldn't build a great coal bed. That leads us perfectly into mistake number 2, not establishing a proper coal bed. I was excited. I wanted to get cooking. First offset, want to throw on some food, wanted to taste it, and I was rushing the process. What I've learned now is if you take the time to build a proper cold bed in the beginning, that first part of the cook, you won't be chasing your temperatures half as much. If you rush it, you're just going to frustrate yourself because you're going to be chasing temperatures, and it's just worth it to spend an extra 15 or 20 minutes establishing that cold bed from the get-go. It has been about 45 minutes. I actually put my stopwatch on late. It says 38 minutes right now. One thing I forgot to mention is I'm just getting over a bad head cold, so if I sound a little off, that's why. But if we look at our cold bed, we now have a nicely established cold bed. Let's have a closer look. So as you can see, we've got a nice cold bed established. We can break this down. I'm going to try and keep it over to the right side. And now we'll throw in a split. The one thing to note here is normally I would already have splits on top preheating, but because I was going to open this up and show you, I left it off. But you can see it's a super hot cold bed and it caught up right away. Now we're going to close this guy up. Let us start to get the temperature. But before we do that, mistake number 3, I only made once, but that was I added a big dense split to the top of a fire that was only about 25 minutes old, thinking that it would help just build a bigger cold bed. All it did was add 30 minutes to my prep time. Don't make that one. Now we've got our first split on there. We can start to heat up some other wood. Now I'm going to have to add another split to get this up to temperature here. And again, just to remind you, right after I started this, normally I would already have splits up here. A warmer log always catches fire easier, but since we don't have that today, we'll throw that on anyhow. And now what we're going to do is we're going to let this guy get up to our cooking temperature. Mistake number 4 is walking away for too long thinking the fire was under control. Now I'm sure as I get more and more familiar with this, I will be able to do that more frequently, but there's been numerous times where I walked away thinking everything was good and I come back and something's wrong with the fire. And now for I don't know how long, could have been 5 minutes, it could have been 20 minutes, I had dirty smoke going all over my food. And it was because I just walked away and I didn't pay close enough attention. Mistake number 5, not having enough patience. I can't tell you how many times I've rolled a log over or I've adjusted my fire and I've waited 10 minutes and it's not doing what I want to do. It's not coming up to the temperature. And then I've added a split and all of a sudden I'm 325 when my target temperature is 275. If I had just waited an extra 10 minutes, I would have seen that the rest of that log was going to catch on fire and that hot air was going to move through the chamber and it was going to come up to temperature exactly where I wanted it. So it takes longer than you think for a reaction to happen once you make a change to your fire. Mistake number 6, adding wood when adjusting my fire would have had the correct outcome. What do I mean by this? So when two splits are side by side, if you've got a very small gap, there's a very small room for flames to come up between those logs. So if there's not a lot of flames, there's not a lot of heat. So what I learned is if you just take your shovel and you widen that gap between the two splits, all of a sudden more flames, more oxygen is able to flow, and now all of a sudden that 10, 15 degrees that I'm off that I'm trying to get is easily achievable as long as I'm patient and I wait for it to come up. There's been multiple times where I've just added more wood thinking I needed to, when really I didn't, and then I overshot my temperature. Can't tell you how many times I have not been paying attention to the wood. The temperature was good, I had everything I was looking for, but all of a sudden it starts to die, and I go in and I look and my coal bed's gone. It's all burnt down. You see, I watched a video early on, and this was on a 1,000-gallon smoker, and this guy didn't really mess with his coal bed at all. He said it was a big no-no for him to do that. And I thought the same would apply for this. Unfortunately, it does not. What you've got to do is, as you have some splits that are getting smaller, or if you've got a couple there that are ready to break down, help them along. Take your shovel, break them up a little bit, build back up your coal bed, and then throw another split on there and keep that coal bed alive. Number 8 goes hand in hand with having a small coal bed, and that's letting the gap between your splits and your coal bed get too great, and therefore putting your fire out or burning very, very dirty. I've set that up for you right now. This is with smaller splits, but I've actually done it with a little bit longer so the gap's even more. But what you can see is when I put them in, the fire was burning great, walk away for 20 minutes, and all of a sudden that gap is so big, now it's not burning well, and I'm losing a whole bunch of temperature. To make sure that this doesn't happen, you've got to keep a big coal bed, and you've got to make sure that if you've got longer splits, you maybe put them on an angle so they're not as far away. Mistake number 9, being obsessed with clean smoke. Now, I don't know if it's going to show up because of the cloudy background, but right now I got some dirty smoke. And this is on purpose, it's for a shot in the firebox. But what I want to talk about is everyone talks about dirty smoke and how you've got to run clean smoke and it's got to be clear or blue tint, and that's going to give you the best results. But from time to time, you're going to see some puffs of white smoke. And me being new to offsets, I got out my shovel or my gloves, started repositioning my logs. I'm throwing in little pieces of kindling, trying to get the fire to restart. Or I'm like pulling out logs and readjusting my coal bed and putting them on there. And all that's happening there is the dirty smoke's continuing more, and I'm having these big temperature swings. So it's not my dirty smoke that's killing my quality of food. Now it's the fact that I overshot my temperatures by 50 or 75 degrees continuously throughout my cook. So is clean smoke important? Absolutely. But if it just goes white for a minute or two and cleans back up, don't worry about it. Don't make the mistake I made and keep fiddling with your fire, because it's only going to make it worse. Just understand that as you learn more and more, the quality of your food is going to be stepped up each time you cook, and eventually you're going to be able to have a perfectly burning fire at all times. You're going to know how to read the fire. It's just going to take time. Once again, we're back up to 275. We've got some clean smoke. Just wanted to show you it's possible. Got some great shots of the fire. Want to talk to you about mistake number 10. Thinking you're going to learn it quickly. Or I should say, assuming you're going to learn it quickly. Listen, I'm one of those people that when I start a hobby, my wife will tell you, my hobbies are like second jobs. I'm all in. right? I flew remote control planes, helicopters, got into competition, was doing crazy tricks and whatnot with them. I went out and bought a flight sim for my computer so I could play, and me and a buddy several nights a week would spend hours practicing. And then after a year, I was flying circles around people who have been flying for 5-10 years. But I was able to put it in the work. Golf, the same type of thing, although I'm not progressing nearly as fast as that as I would like. But you can buy an indoor putting mat, you can practice all year round on that, you can go to the driving range. This, you've got to sit and light fires and play with the fire and learn it. And it takes a long time, longer than I expected, to be able to read the fire. And I now understand just how much of an art there is to reading the logs, being able to pick up, logs that have got the right moisture content that you're looking for, and being able to put together that fire so it's breaking down in a way that you're keeping up the cool bed and keeping the constant temperatures that you're looking for, right? The narrower your swings are in temperature, the better quality food you're gonna produce. And that just takes time. I mean, there's been some frustration behind the scenes while I'm learning this. It's definitely taken me a little longer than I expected, but I'm up for the challenge. I just had to accept that I'm not gonna learn this overnight. I'm just gonna have to put in the work. Anyhow, there's my 10 tips. Hopefully you found some value out of them. I now think that, unlike following a recipe that you can get pretty close to replicating, fire management is something that you can watch a bunch of videos on, but really you've got to play with it. Everyone's got different smokers, everyone's using different quality wood, different moisture contents, different sizes. It's one of those things you just got to play with. But hopefully these 10 mistakes will help you from avoiding them and help you get up to speed a little quicker. If you got some value to this, please give it a thumbs up. Next video I'm working on is I'm going to be working on some linseed oil treatment for this guy. A couple people have asked for it. I've already done it once. It's super easy, but I'm going to make that video for you. If you're not subscribed yet, please do so. Thanks as always for watching. I'll see you soon.